Welcome back for this second video on the Nuage Network solution. So in a previous video we created an organization or tenant. We created groups or users and groups, and we put those users inside the groups. And then we were able to log into this new organization with a new user account. Now what I would like to do is create a rooted service, a layer 3 domain as we call it. Okay. So the plan is to go and create, as you can see here, VPRN, as Alcatel or Nokia call it, a VPRN service, a layer 3 service, or a layer 3 domain. And then we're going to attach different zones, which are just, administrative groups, basically. And will allow us later on to apply different policies to those zones. Okay, and inside the zones, we're going to create, as you can see, services, layer 2 services or EVPN services. And finally, we're going to attach a web server. Okay, so that's the plan. Let's log into our architect now. So username admin, the password, if you remember, CSP root, as the same as the default one, if you like, organization org1. There we go. So that's my interface. We are the dashboard here. We can see alarms. There's not yet. I'm sure they will come. But most of the work is done here at the network. So the first thing is we're going to create a template. Okay, so I'm going to click here. And that's the only thing we can create anyway. We have to start with template. So template 1. Well, we can give a better name, I'm sure, but for this example should be enough. So that's my template, and I'm going to drag from the right hand side here a zone. As I told you, we're going to create a zone which I like to call web. Okay, inside this zone I'm going to create a subnet, which I also like to call web. As I told you before, they are case sensitive, so just try to keep it simple, use all lowercase, of course, as long as you can remember what you type, it's all fine. So I created a subnet, and that's my subnet IP address, 10.10.1.0/24, and the gateway. Okay, that will be the interface of a rooted VPRN, and the one where the layer 2 service will be attached to. Okay, so I created a template, nice and easy. I could provide permissions here by selecting my domain and giving permission to other people beside admin and to be able to use that. Okay, well, I don't really mind, but just for security, we're going to allow the network designer. The next step is going to instantiate this template. So we're going to create a domain. I'm going to call it domain 1. So of course the advantage of having a template is that I can go and create domain number 2 if I wanted to, just as an example, domain 2, and you can see, and those domains are going to look just the same as a template with the same IP address, same subnet, same everything. Will make our life much easier. Okay. If you notice, this one is a light blue. When you select your domain, it will tell you which template. If we had 2 or 3 templates, I'm going to add a new template. Template 2. Yeah, if I select my template, it will highlight only the one. Yeah, the source of this domain. Same for that one. Or if you select the template, it will highlight the domain have been instantiated from this template. Right. Okay, so we created a template, then we created a domain. We're going to give the permission now to a specific account, which is app user. Well, we give permission to groups, and we're going to select 1, 2, app user. Okay, So we have two levels where we need to give permission, at the domain level and at the zone level. All right, everything is done. Now we just need to go on the hypervisor, which you can see here. I'm going to create a virtual machine. So, create. If you can remember, you just press enter. It will tell you how to create those virtual machines. So we need to give a name. Let's call it organization 1, web 1. Okay, organization is organization 1. User, app user, domain 1, zone web. Okay, so this script here is going to run a KVM and create a virtual machine. Okay, so I just created a virtual machine. I can do a virtual list, and I can see I have two virtual machines. The one I just created is right here. Okay, and it's running. It's using a port, is a VNC port number 1, so I can look here. Port number 1. I pre-configure it, obviously. See, yeah, it's booting up. So let's have a look here. I don't know if you noticed, but those two just appeared. Okay. So this one is your virtual machine interface. Okay, where you can see the name of this interface, VNet1, MAC address allocated by the KVM at the creation time of the virtual machine, and the IP address has been allocated. So this IP address is part of the subnet, obviously, 10.10.10.1, 10.10.10.1.19, okay, /24. And the other interesting information is where does this virtual machine lives? On the hypervisor right here, 10.1.1.31. Okay, so let me go back here. I'm going to check the IP address. And let's see if I can ping. You notice the IP address right here, 10.10.1.19. And this IP address, as I said, was allocated by the VSD. .1, that's our gateway. Make sure it works. There we go. So that's working nicely. To finish with this one, I'm going to create a second virtual machine, just the same way. So go back to my script. I'm going to call it number 2. For the rest, is exactly the same. It's going to leave or have a VNC port number 2. So I already created that. So double click here. Press enter. This one is going to boot up. Here we go. I could check which IP address it should get. 147. Okay. IP address 147. So I can come back here. So that's my first virtual machine, 147. And as you can see, by default, we're not allowed to ping any machine, only the gateway. Okay, and there are some rules which I didn't mention up to now, but if we click here on policies, okay, and that will apply, and I should come back here, that's going to apply to the whole domain, okay, the whole domain 1. Those policy, if you look here, ingress security policy, okay, so by default, we're going to drop any packet. Okay, so I'm going to allow, but that's just for testing, of course, we don't do that in a real network. Allow all traffic. Okay, and we're going to forward IP traffic by default. I'm going to enable this policy. Okay, and we click. Now, we need to make sure, as you can see on the right-hand side, to apply this policy. This one has been created, as you can see on the left-hand side here. It has not been applied yet. Okay, not apply pending policies. So we need to click there, and the little blue shell disappeared here, and this policy has been applied. And now you can see it's pinging. So what have we done? Something very simple. I created a domain which I call domain 1, which is a rooted service, and we'll have a look on that later. Then we created a zone which I called web. Then I created a service, a layer 2 service, okay, an EVPN service, and we're going to investigate that also in the future, okay, which I called web. And then I attached 2 virtual machines, to web 1 and web 2. And finally I did a ping. So I was able to ping the gateway, but only that. Okay. And if I wanted to ping both machines or between machines, I had to create a policy, a very basic policy, which allow all traffic. Okay, we're going to come back on those policies and do